I'm going to call this meeting of the Arundel Planning Board to order. Today is Tuesday, March 7th, 2023. We're in the municipal town meeting room. Can I get a roll call?
Lee J. Feldman, Town Planner.
Marty Kane.
Susan Senate.
Paul Green.
Susan Roth.
And I'm Rich Ganong, the planner. No, I'm not the planner. I'm the chairman. I don't want to be the planner. That's too much work. We have on the agenda today, the approval of the agenda, approval of the minutes of February 21st, 2023, public comments, public hearing. The item on public hearing is Vinegar Hill Music Theater. And we have a pending application, again, Vinegar Hill Music Theater. We have a new application for Gary's Auto Salvage Conditional Use Permit Renewal and a town planner's report.
Make a motion, we accept the agenda as written.
Second.
Motion by Paul Green, seconded by Susan Roth. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous. Next item is approval of the minutes of February 21st.
I move that it's approved as written.
Second.
Okay, motion by Susan Sinnet, seconded by Paul Green to accept the minutes as written. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous. The next item is public comment. If you have something that you would like the board to discuss that is not on the agenda, now is the time that you would tell us and we can make some notes and we can look into whatever that issue happens to be. Anybody have any comments? Hearing none, we will move on to the next item. It is now 7:03 and I am going to open the public hearing for Vinegar Hill Music Theater, a major conditional use application, Vinegar Hill Music Theater site plan application, a proposal to use an area for outdoor entertainment venue to include accommodating up to 3 food trucks, as well as the establishment of a banquet use for weddings and other public events.
Good evening, Chair Ganong, members of the planning board. We are back this evening to discuss Vinegar Hill Music Theater after sidewalk and some updates to the plan. My goal this evening is to walk you through the changes and hopefully the response to specific questions that we've done in the supplemental narrative to address the concerns from the last meeting. So put it in your packet this evening. If you remember, we submitted two plan sets. One was sort of the existing conditions. The other was basically everything that we were looking for approval on. Feedback from this board was that we try to break that out and make it as clear as possible in separate sheets. So that was working with limits of use. That is what I attempted to achieve here. So if you look at the plans, each one is sort of that existing conditions, future utility details, as laid out with the proposals as well. It should be noted, for members note 9 is for event occurring in the theater and everybody's looked at the question of working on. So that as a note, when there are outdoor events, that would be just sort of handicap, handicap with other areas. So sheet 2 is for the outdoor events and concerts occurring on the stage. So we discussed this at a site walk, but the intention is that the areas dedicated clearly included the whole boxes where you can have standing room only for events on the stage, the seating with chairs and blankets area in that sort of out front parking lot. Regular parking or standard parking out in that sort of back, plan northeast, and then overflow, in, the shelf parking lot as well. Again, we'll get into this a little bit later, but we've also provided in the packet parking, mitigation plan for review, to handle any sort of additional. Sheet 3, is for the driving specifically, again, somewhat, different, in terms of, how we set up. You've got a 13 spaces in the back. You've got a designated front area for chairs and blankets, and then, lined up cars, in that sort of back lot, or actually back lot. For obviously the, fresh out parking lot is used for drivers who can't see it. And then finally is, the food truck area. We tried to, I know it's hard to sort of the FP is the taller tables, right? Here, these are the proposed, food truck areas, and again, not every event will have the three food trucks, but, part of the proposal, it was suggested that we upload that sort of food truck, approval that way, food truck vendors can just come there, permits and licensing, kind of this is where, if we were to have created at one point, we got over this is where they'd be located, they would be brought in for any sort of public record set up, and they would be after any event. So that is the summary of the case. Have it pause there or the answer to this question or Peter had that.
I have a kind of a, maybe a stupid
You use your mic.
Turn your mic
question.
on.
Sorry, can't get used to these things. I hope this isn't a stupid question, but are the food trucks, when they're open to the public? So people that are not attending the event, can they come? And I don't know how you would police it, but you know, if you had an influx of interlopers that weren't part of your event.
I guess it's a fair question.
So do patrons pay for the food is when they go to the food trucks and, or are they just provided or?
Some of, litigation. And so it's partly kind of to check the things. So anybody partly can say, I suppose it's possible somebody could wander on the street and get on with a lot of ticket maybe, but we do have parking. That sort of thing. So to answer your question, the intention is sort of no, that oh, it's not open to public, it's open for those tickets to the next.
So let me interrupt just for a minute. Does anybody from the public have any questions for the applicant? And hearing none, I will end the.
Wait a minute.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see your hand. Abs. Yes, absolutely.
State your name,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah, can you come up and speak into the microphone? Oh, okay.
I'm a little tired and it's been a long day, so I wrote.
Okay,
My name is Mary Boswell. I own the home where I live at 708 River Road. My property is directly across the street from Vinegar Hill. I owned my home since May 2014. Let me say first that when I moved into my home, I knew that there was a theater vendor across the street. And so I completely understand the public nature of the property. When Vinegar Hill was purchased in winter 2015, I was pleased to see the work that was done. to upgrade the property. It is well maintained and there's no doubt that it is an upgrade to what was there. I was able to attend a show in a bar in summer 2014, and I was impressed by the interior. When COVID-19 impacted venues like Vinegar Hill as it did in the summer of 2020, I quietly accepted when a metal frame was erected in the parking lot and movies were shown and outdoor concerts were introduced. I wanted Vinegar Hill to survive the pandemic, so I got to the concerts and I survived and not any outdoor entertainment, assuming that once customers would feel safe again in an indoor venue that a metal frame would disappear and the outdoor concerts would go away. Last summer was a transitional summer in my mind, and I look forward to this coming summer. I'm soon the concerts and entertainment will be back in the mini market where we've been past. I am very concerned with the proposal to expand the outdoor venue in the parking lot to include a more permanent stage, as well as to allow more food trucks other than one food truck, which is present in the past few summers. Please take into consideration that on evenings when the venue is not showing and concerts take place, the bass and constant beat of the music can be felt as a constant pounding through my home. I end up closing myself in my bedroom and counting minutes and hours until the bass from the music stops pounding through the floor. I don't believe that this is fair, and I certainly it is not what I signed up for when I bought my house. Expanding a tent on the east side of the property and doing wedding venues, etc., I applaud the idea. It doesn't impact. But further use of the parking lot as a music and entertainment venue does impact. I ask the town council to consider this as they review the request for this meeting. I know I'm only finding home, and I don't have the influence of the people that own it. But my quality of life is significantly impacted by the decision.
Thank you. Could you leave that with the town planner?
Yes.
We can get that entered into the record.
Through the chair,
Yeah, Marty?
may I ask the young lady there a question?
Yes, you can.
The concerts are what you're concerning about. Are the movies, any of the other activity like that, that are more or less quieter, do they affect you?
They do not. It is
Okay,
and music, though. Music is what constantly has the bass that goes through the ground and permeates the ground all the way.
thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Then at 7:15, I'm going to close the public hearing. And now the board can ask questions of the applicant.
Sorry, I thought the public hearing had been closed, so.
Nope,
I
that's
apologize.
okay.
Can't hear you, Susan.
I thought the public hearing had closed, so I apologize for my preemptive question. Premature question.
I know we've had discussions about the sound. Is there a sound study that shows that this meets the ordinance?
In our original submission from back in January, there is a sound mitigation plan that will include that process. We have purchased also a professional grade decibel meter, and throughout in that sound mitigation plan, there are specific testing times that are followed for any event. We also cut back earlier than the sound ordinance, noise ordinance for the town requires. was nothing, there were no events to do a sound, study on or sound mitigation, but you provided that sound mitigation plan and all the steps that we take during the events that over the past 2 years.
Okay, thank you.
1 second. So the clarification from the sound study that you did you have them from an outside concert event or from the interior as well? So I'm just curious.
I don't, well, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I'm happy to.
Yes, please.
So additionally, in the updated packet, and happy to talk about anything in the original packet as well. I attempted to address the 4 topics that I think were the big ones in a supplemental narrative from comments from the board. I think board member Rob, you would ask for sort of a formalization of the season. That's our response in number 1. It's really sort of mid-April, late April till late October, early November, except for a few one-off events that come up like in the event that the water is deep enough and beyond year-round, back to support for any sort of expansion of use that would entail year-round use. There's no plans for that in the foreseeable future, given where the water is. It's probably not likely anytime soon, except for one-off sort of Christmas type events. Event capacity. This one gets a little bit nuanced, so bear with me. The theater itself is approved for 260 indoor seats. With our updated septic system, which Jim Davis signed off on, that's been expanded capacity to allow 350 people per day. So we could not have 2 sold out indoor events. We could have 2 events that are 175. So in terms of capacity, it's based on our capacity because of our septic. We're limited to 350 people per day plus the 8 employees that would be the big event. So if we were to do an outdoor event and an indoor event, again, it would be limited due to our septic capacity to 300 people at any 24-hour period.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Lee J, and I probably am, but I thought on the original discussion, we said the 260 was going to be the maximum.
Well, and again, excuse me, not that you're wrong, because numbers have been bantered around for quite a while on this. But what we ended up settling on was that the septic system that they were putting in, based on the new design, could handle the 300 plus. But we also, in many discussions behind the scenes, indicated that that's fine. But if you want to do multiple shows, the number still is the 353, 358, whatever it is, during a 24-hour period. Because the 24-hour period is simply because the understanding that the effluent goes into the system, it's got to settle out. So it's not like you can do multiple shows and within a 24-hour period without impact to that system. So it was agreed, at least with us as staff, that number is 358 based on design. And if you're going to do multiple shows, they can't total any more than that for the multiple shows. If you folks choose to do something different, that's something you choose. But from a staff perspective, from a technical design perspective, we agreed that the 358 was an appropriate number based on the design. However, it could only be multiple shows totaling that within any 24-hour period.
To the chair. So Lee J, not knowing that much about septic systems,
Yep.
I have a question. Does
Sure.
it matter? So when you say 350 or 360 people in a 24-hour period, it seems to imply that it's not going to all happen at once. So can the facility handle one event with full capacity I mean, with 300 and some odd people using the bathrooms for one event?
It could, yes, or it can, I shouldn't say could, it can. However, there's also the issue of the indoor seating capacity based on the state fire marshal's office for occupancy load. Which has nothing to do with the septic system design, but has to do with how many square feet per person. Is allowed in a public facility like that, and that's limited to the 260.
But couldn't you hold an event that is both indoors and outdoors?
Yes.
Like a wedding?
Sure.
And have 300 and some odd people there all at once?
That's what it's.
That's where it gets a little dicey because you can't have, if you have 300 plus people there, you know, are they all going to be inside the building for dinner? Or are there going to be outdoor seating for those additional people? Because the building capacity, don't think of the septic system, but the building capacity is limited to 260.
Right, I get that, but you could have an event that has indoor and outdoor seating.
Yes, but
And-
never more than the
Right.
358.
Right, and the systems as they exist can handle that all at
Correct.
once.
Correct.
Okay.
To the chair, I'm curious, are you ever planning on having dual events at the site where something's going on in the theater and something is also happening outside the theater?
No, the deal, the back and forth on this, question of the seating in 24-hour period and was really sort of an indoor event, whether it was that day, they clear out and the TV performers of some sort of indoor performance. Outdoor capacity, if something were to happen, the capacity is significantly less than the other needed, given the cars or an outdoor concert or an outdoor. And I guess presumably there could be some sort of outdoor daytime event for the community that is the evening performance, but you don't plan for that at this point, so.
Okay,
But again, we've limited to that 358 in the 24-hour period, and there's a whole calculation that back and forth with Jim, Daniel, and we about, you know, based on theaters and see the use of to that number, making sure it's built in standards. That's in the HAG.
200. Yeah.
So parking during events, I referenced it here in the narrative. I'd like to go into more specifics in a minute with the parking mitigation plan. But I just want to make sure we hit on everything that was requested during this meeting. Again, handicap parking will be located in that crush shell lot for indoor events. And then handicap parking for outdoor events, concentrated behind the area for chairs and blankets. Yeah, and more detailed parking mitigation plan for all the different events. We'll with this. And then stage description. I've included the cut sheet for the very technical description of the stage. But from a just nuts and bolts size. It's a 20-foot wide by 16-foot deep. Structure, the front is about 15 feet from the ground, and the back is approximately 12 feet. So it's an angle. The stage is approximately 3 feet off the ground, and then again, stabilized is also approximately 1,000 pounds on each corner of the stage for added winds. Additionally, I can specify, and I believe incorporated in BJ's motions. We acknowledge, feel like we need to get signed engineering plans and signed electrical plans so that it's grounded and safe for use. It's currently quicker out of it, goes going on the sidewalk. So once we can get the engineer engaged, we will get those there and there will be a lot of use until it's going to satisfaction comes from staff. I am not going to try to describe things from the stage because we have to front of it. I guess I'm going to skip right along to the parking regulations are that's lots of repeated further. So again, we communicate a lot through our social media and website. As part of the parking mitigation plan, we're going to encourage rideshare to be except they're available and carpooling whenever possible. So particular events, we track those tickets, and we can get a reasonably good estimation of how many vehicles, depending on the type of event that occurred. So when tickets sold exceed 160, they're gonna plan accordingly, prepare for that overflow situation in demand that lot, which we have permission to use. And then for non-ticket events, similar to the one that we discussed from the chamber, we will work with that organization to do our best to determine the number of anticipated attendees, and if we expect those to be more than 160, so really a 1-to-1 ratio, we'll also plan for overflow. And then we have some already in our possession, but we will plan on purchasing phones and additional signage to direct pedestrian for the possible overflow use. Again, when we actually had the lots drawn out by things that you we can get everything that we need the standards on site. Even though it's just a dirt lot, and I think having those parking attendants get people in the tight spot will be an added benefit. So daily event, right, 2 parking attendants when they see 160 tickets, but we have 30 added, then they will again direct viewers to the different parking spaces and direct them to the Patriots game, make it even as tight as possible, even with some of the bigger trucks and bigger vehicles. And then all available spaces will be utilized for moving on to any sort of overflow parking lot. And then when we do have tickets that exceed 160, that additional signage will be installed in order to direct people to access that additional lot with the parking that is helping to cross it. And then finally, I included the significant public comment that we received. I think it was included in the last package, just in case. So again, most of that has come in throughout the fall, or is ahead of that January completeness meeting. With that, happy to try to answer any questions, address that sort of completeness workshop. You know, we don't have the flat stamp hands here. There isn't, but if I need to back, so.
To the chair.
Yes, go ahead.
I appreciate all the letters. Is the one letter from the Mann Clinic in here that I asked for that could show that you could actually use the parking lot?
It may not be. I do have it. I can ask conditional approval. We actually get that over to you.
Because remember at the sidewalk, I said, you know, it's great that they said that to you, but nice to actually see that they committed their property to let you do that.
And they have a sidewalk on it. Both of them, there's a mark up there itself, and go get this happening. But I would be happy if it was.
Thanks.
To the chair,
Yes.
living on the Senate Road, but much further down near Titcomb Lane, on a summer night, I understand what Mary is talking about, because as far as I am away, I can also hear the beat of the music. It's not as nearly as intense, but sound really does travel. So I understand, Mary, what you're saying, and your opinion, by the way, is just as important as anybody else's. So I have a thought. I can't remember last summer if there was any kind of screening around 3 sides of the stage, but would that do something to mitigate the sound and sort of direct it, you know, in the direction you want it to go, and instead of having it so dispersed? because the stage is completely open. So I think it's great that you're here in the community and whatever, but maybe there's some way that you can mitigate the sound and direct it better so that people who are on the immediate periphery aren't as affected by the sound and the concerts.
Sure, yeah.
So,
Our sound detector, the person we engage to all our things. Has been working over this winter to get us some little quotes on vinyl covering for over the back, the top, and the side of the stage. So it was not installed originally. We did have a quote, and the person who also configured those makes like say, oh, we need to do the and we're not able to get it installed. We originally looked at it, looking at it last year, and then you didn't have it.
right.
So it is again on the table, and we are looking at it for spring.
Good. Good. That's
And
good to know.
how much exactly that's going to do, I think we will have to do a study out.
Well, I do know that some of the sheathing that you can
Right.
put on stages like this, just by virtue of experiences that I've had for big events, that some of that can actually help with the sound.
Yeah, that's the idea, right?
It's not just a thin vinyl layer, but it actually has a core and it helps you sort of direct the sound in the direction you want it to go.
I mean, I think that that's something that helps us do better.
Well, it might even improve your concert. You just don't know. So.
Through Chair,
Yeah, Marty.
when you take your sound readings, how often are they taken? I know you'll have different spots along the way. I mean, and are they more or less logged in so that, as you're making your rounds, per se, spot 1, spot 2, or vice versa, are they logged into a log so that if there was a question? Because you aren't gonna get anybody, if it's something that's happened on a weekend, you're not gonna get anybody there from the town to observe it. That's why I'm asking.
I think currently, yes, we should do that.
Okay, the reason I'm also asking is if you have a spot down near the barn itself, almost abutting Mary's property, so that if it's there, it has a sound level in case, and no offense, but if you call and complain about it, you got something to turn around and say what the sound was at the time.
This is also a general question, and I apologize, Mary, for not looking at this when we did our sidewalk. Between the properties, on the other side, are there, a decent amount of buffer trees between the property to make it be more, ability to break the sound up? Are there? I'm asking, yeah.
All along the end of the property, so that it would block some of it, but I can't afford to do that. But there are no trees at the end of my property that buffer and that prevent me from seeing and hearing.
Mhm.
And it goes through the ground. I want you guys to just, it's not just coming across the top here. It's literally, I can feel it in my feet. It's that.
Vibrating.
It's that kind of. That is,
For those of us that have ever been to an 80s concert, that vibration comes through the floor. I want to point out to you the noise ordinance. It's at the property line 4 feet up. I have the feeling for Mary's property that you might have a problem with noise.
Noise is different than vibration.
That's in the eye of the beholder.
Well, I don't know if anybody works back.
Yeah, I don't either. But,
We realize it's at the line of the property. And, we're on about, the entire property is, approximately 11 acres. What's developed is only. And I apologize, I'm not quite sure, that we're on the site of our property, but we do realize, that it is from, that the sound ordinance is from, the property line, and so does our professional sound tech.
All right. Yeah, I don't exactly know where Mary's property is either. She said it was directly across the street from you guys. So I'm looking at that field on the other side of,
That's my view.
that's your field. Okay.
It's directly across the street. That's my view.
Yeah, the intersection of Old Post and River. Yeah.
Because it was purposely angled towards the wooded area, to hit the trees and have that sort of sound buffer the way the stage is oriented.
And I appreciate the sound as you saying that, the vibration and bass. You can't do that. So, because that's, your speakers are currently, when you're using them, I'm assuming they're on the stage, or are they on the ground? Stage, that's what I'm saying. So you're like, it's going through and just spreading. So I'm not saying it's as something that isn't necessarily a negation for me. I'm saying is if there's a buffer opportunity to negate part of it. Because there's some things you can do and there are some things that you cannot. And when she bought the home, as she said, it was a Arundel Barn Playhouse. It was inside, it was theater productions, it was musicals. And when you guys got it, it was inside for theater productions and band things inside a building. Now you're asking to do it outside. So I appreciated what she's saying. It's just changing her way of life and being able to appreciate her property while you're appreciating yours.
Yeah, we
Mr.
did.
Chairman, I might need to defer to Brandon on this, but I think on their noise mitigation plan that was submitted back in January, there is a specific time that was noted as to when that would shut down.
Yeah. It says on your down here.
Just for, movies.
Right, but wasn't the music even earlier, actually?
Earlier, and that's not actually within the, mitigation, but in the actual narrative.
And so I get the vibration issue. I mean, I've certainly experienced that myself. But the only thing to consider in the whole thing is that, yes, at 10 PM, the decibel level also has to drop by 5 dB, which I would hope that would drop the bass noise as well. There may still be some if they go beyond, but I think that they self-imposed a condition where they're gonna be shutting down by 9 o'clock or 9:30 for the music performances, which is ahead of the time frame that is allowed that louder, that higher decibel noise level in the commercial zone.
The weekend concert, give or take minutes, but 9:30 the concert's 10. Not, and then people hear it out. So it's not even that we have to turn it down, we end the concert by 9:30 in the crowd or concert setting. Movies, as we discussed during previous start at sunset, if they happen to go beyond 10, we've scaled the sound way back. The benefit with the movies is we have Bluetooth capability, so people or shortwave radio, so people can listen to it in their car without mosquitoes, the winter grow up through their car. So the need to keep it at that, and those that are staying outside are typically posting on their chair or but very kind of not really that been part of the original submission. As well.
To the chair,
Yes.
So I don't mean to rearrange your plan with all your parking, but you might consider if you can't get the noise down, because you have a large piece of property. It's 11 acres, is that right?
That's what I'm trusting, but yes.
Yes, give or take. Well, you have virtually nothing behind you between the River Road or Old Post. That's, what does it turn into? Limerick Road? Is it River Road? So you have that empty lot where we had the proposal for the tennis courts. And then catty corner, you have Man, and then behind that you have Route 1. What would happen if instead of putting it in the corner where you have it, and I'm not saying you should, I'm just saying as an alternative, moving it to the opposite corner, which is further away from residential property, and gives you the opportunity to maybe rearrange some of your parking a little bit, but put it back there where it virtually doesn't impact anybody.
So I'm just spitballing. Part of the problem, there's a wetlands issue. So we can't really rearrange the parking in that area, as well as presumably we would be pointing the stage within the sound back the other way. So in order to have the stage viewable, we need people to be able to, the back corner would be facing Old Post and.
Yeah, you'd end up pointing the stage at Mary's property.
I don't think it's ideal.
Okay, I was thinking it, perhaps I understand not being able to put the stage in that wetlands in that far corner, but maybe being able to put it someplace, and I guess it takes away too much parking. But I was just trying to think of a place that you could hide it and and have a bigger audience and play your music and not be impacted by complaints, not that they're not warranted and justified, but from your neighbors.
And we typically, have somebody on site that can accept phone calls. We're happy to do more formal reporting, to make sure we are paying, within the sound ordinance, as required. And we, like I said, on conference, we have a professional sound tech, that's doing all of that as well, which is both in the mitigation plan and the area. And I'm sure there will be something I call for day of conference, after having that.
Okay, doke.
Does anybody on the board have anything else? Yes,
No, I'm not a board member. I apologize, but I think
Okay.
some of the issues might also be clarified a little bit as to what the number of outdoor concerts are that you're proposing at this time. I mean, I'm not gonna belittle it, but it's not like you're gonna be out there every weekend, as I understand it.
So currently, we don't have approval for non-scheduled.
Correct. Correct.
I don't think that we even. This year, we would have wanted to, one thing that we do is like popular in the fall of 21 was the fall festival. And that was, arts and crafts and, smaller shows, like local bands, carving pumpkins, et cetera, et cetera. And that's usually like multiple bands that are not turned up super loud because it's generally meant to be more of a fair and not a long concert. So the decibel level for that sort of thing is low anyway. Into 2024, certainly not once a weekend because it's for us, it's easier for us and more economical.
Right, give them that other piece of paper they get.
It's 4 times a year, there's not a whole lot. In terms of capacity, et cetera, we can't put more people outside. All the numbers. So it's really just sort of special show. So more like a main music festival where it's smaller bands, multiple bands. I have one in the summertime, I have one in the fall festival. Maybe for that. In terms of music.
Between the town attorney and everything else.
And just curiosity, isn't the acoustics better inside the venue than outside the venue? So if you're actually wanting to hear the band, it should be probably within the venue, unless it's like you said, a big.
So we're really. Movies. Outdoor concerts is not something that's really seen. Major part of the has a stage, so. Have it, switch, like, use it occasionally for sort of a special event. I think it's
You could.
And this is nothing to do with probably the planning board can say for you, but is there a way you can notify neighbors that an outside event is coming?
Certainly, yeah.
Because that way they can know when to, something's going to be a plan it for your, you know what I mean, to plan life versus, okay, I'm gonna have an outside picnic with my family and all of a sudden, that kind of thing. So there's something versus them having to keep track of your, just to be.
Mitigating even the sound that does, but forgetting about the fact that we have a sound mitigation thing.
Yes,
But also taking additional steps beyond that, just as trying to be a good neighbor.
Right.
Something to be very interesting. Including overnight.
outdoor concerts is what I'm thinking, so that there can be an extra sound available.
Through the chair.
Yeah, Marty.
On your food vendors, I know we've had in the past, and I guess he's very good, but he's never had a license to operate in the town of Arundel. And what guarantees can you have that make sure they're licensed?
What, I'm not sure, we've had liquor and.
No. Food truck.
Yeah, so as a condition of being allowed to operate.
But in the past, everybody's known it and nobody's done anything about it.
Do you check their license to make sure they actually have one from the town? That's what Marty's talking about, because in the past, you didn't, either you didn't check them or whoever checked it ignored the fact that they didn't have one.
That's who was checking it previously.
Right.
No longer.
And I think that's part of why it's suggested that we come forward for the actual food truck approval as part of the site plan approval. I think it was confusion between the food truck vendors having to get their license separately from the sort of identifier event and the food truck order by the venue itself.
Yeah, so I mean, let me clarify that a little bit. I think early on, we were talking about 4 food trucks. Was the number that you were looking at. So the way the ordinance is written, 3 food trucks would come to a staff review committee and we would look at the placement and location to approve them. 4 food trucks or more come to this board. And so that's why the process had originally started with the food truck issue coming to this board. But whether it's this board approving it as part of your overall plan or a staff review committee approving it because it's less than the 4, I think the issue and concern is making sure that the individual food truck operator appears before the town select board and gets their, I'll call it a victualer's license to operate like any food vendor would need to do in any community.
Yeah, and I did have early on a conversation with the former manager of that. I think it was confusion that she got the approval, I think, or whatever the that was, which venue itself, Baker Hills, not realizing that there were that second step of the actual individual. That is very clear now that needs to take place.
Okay.
That vendor's license has been in town just not 1 year. This has been in there for several years. And saying he has great food or the whatever else not. But the fact is, it's something that either it's I don't know what the requirements are per se by the selectmen, because he may be in other spots, not every weekend, but at least have a spot so that if he is there on your location, that he is licensed for that location. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, that's good, and that's, I think, very,
And that, just to further clarify that, that is on a event by event basis. So they don't get a license from the select board that's going to cover them for the entire season. Any event they do, they need to come back before the select board to obtain.
The food truck.
Correct, correct.
They're
Not you,
this is part, yeah.
not you.
Yeah. Of course, it is our responsibility to check for. Which I get.
That's why if you have your calendar, the vendor can schedule it with them instead of running back and forth, because they don't meet every week. And so on and so forth. That's why I'm.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, I do. I'm confused. Originally, they came in because there was going to be an expansion with the stage and the wedding venue. We were told that the events would not occur on the same day. They'd either have something with the stage or they'd have something in the theater. It was restricted to those two possibilities and only one during a day. It now sounds as if we can have two during a day. The septic system was increased and expanded because the old system was an experimental system. And Jim had it checked out and the state said, no, you have to replace it with an HHE 200. There was never a discussion with this board, to my knowledge, about an increase in capacity. So I'm kind of troubled by those two aspects.
Well, don't be troubled by them. You're the board. You can condition them on only having one event per day if you choose to do that with seating of whatever the maximum
Well,
capacity is. But just understand that you are correct. The original septic, I don't want to go back through this again. The original septic system that was in place at the time, back in the late 70s, early 80s, was, you can call it experimental. It was sized at 1.5 gallons per person per seat in that facility. When the whole permitting issue came up and we found that, and those numbers didn't jive, the new numbers, I may misspeak here, but the new numbers are somewhere around 7 gallons per person per day. And that's what the new expanded septic system has been designed to meet.
Mhm.
But in designing it to meet it, it also expanded by the sheer number of gallons and whatnot. It expanded that 260 capacity to 358 because of how good septic system designs are today and how efficient they are. So that in itself expanded it. And I'm not going to speak for them, but I think that's where they had talked with us and said, well, if that's the case, can we, have, multiple events during a day? From a staff perspective, we said, sure, provided that number does not go over that 358 during any 24-hour period. That's how we got to that point.
Okay. So I need to know from the board, do you remember having a discussion about multiple events on the same day and the expansion of the numbers on the same day?
To the chair.
Yeah, Marty.
I think if I remember correctly, but when it was the Playhouse, there was sometimes they had two events on the same day.
they may have, but we were told that they would not. And I don't remember the discussion until now that there would be more than one event on a day.
No, I'm just saying in the past. Okay, when it was just the Playhouse, they may have the afternoon and then they had the evening because it was theater.
To the chair, that would be like, there'd be multiple matinees. I don't foresee it, as, I'm not sure if I was even on the board when this was discussed. But it's just the maximum capacity that is more of an issue, having something in the matinee and something in the evening. Doesn't have a concern to me. The concern to me is the mitigation of the bass and the sound for a neighborhood, because they were planning things, they're now moving things outside. That's more of a concern to me, but having a matinee and something in the evening, as long as there's a meet capacity of the actual septic system and the parking issue and the mitigation of that and safety of that is something is more of a concern to me than hearing in the past. Because again, I don't think I was present on the board at that time.
Okay, like I said, go ahead.
To the chair. You have to give these guys a chance, and I'm not, the you is a collective you, but they have to be able to, make a living. And if they have this property, and if they're going to be responsible about it, and I'm presuming that you will be, that it's almost, it doesn't make sense for them not to be able to use the property
Do you
more than
remember
once during the day.
Do you remember them ever having come and said, we want to have multiple events on the same day? That's the question that I need answered.
I don't recall. But this is a two-part question. So as far as the music is concerned, so you said something about music festivals. And so thinking of Mary and thinking of my own backyard, so knowing what concerts were like in the 70s and 80s, I hate to date myself, but they could start earlier in the day and they could go till 9:30 at night. And I understand that you're limited to 358 people, but it could be something that's going on for the better part of the afternoon and the evening. And I just wonder whether or not we should have some parameters for that. Indoor events are one thing, but music festivals could be something completely other.
So a couple clarifying points too. This conversation with septic and the capacity came up because there historically have been the indoor stage and it's came in with. Technically, if you don't want to do anything with the outdoor stage, you grandfather and you don't have to change the septic, you can keep operating when you want. Historically, there have been, not often, but limited shows that they would sell for a matinee and for an evening performance because the performer costs so much to justify that. So I don't, and I wasn't part of the very early on communications with this board, but I think going into the septic where I did start getting involved, it was sort of, this is how the indoor portion of the stage has always operated. And I raised the issue of, well, now we're sort of, how are we calculating capacity from a septic standpoint, not from a fire code standpoint? Because historically there have been situations where I think I don't want to say it's a jumbo box or there were two shows in the past couple of years that have enough popularity that it justifies bringing in, a $2 show and a $60 show. I was trying to do an outdoor event and an indoor event now, it's next to impossible to pull off, I think. In terms of, to your point, the events are going to be for a festival like that would be ticketed to make sure that we don't hold that 350.
Right. But you could have one as a matinee and one in the evening. So music conceivably could be going on, well to your limit at 9:30. So you
In
could,
terms of noise.
yes,
I guess it's either.
yeah, because he said music festival. So my thought was at least two parts, maybe 3 bands and, 100 people per band or, I don't know, but it could be a long stretch of time that the music is going on. So if you're going to do those, I think we need to know about it.
Yes, Paul.
The chair. All right, so I think we're arguing some semantics here, right? Okay, when we initially talked about it, it was, will they be doing an indoor and outdoor event at the same time, which will go over their capacity of the 260? That's what I recall.
Okay, and you
then-
could be right.
And as far as the 2 matinees a day or 2 people, you could run one event all day long until 9:30. And they're not in violation of anything.
Right.
So I'm not sure what the issue is as far as having one in the day and one at night, as long as now we don't go past that 350 capacity. What happens if you have the 260 and then they're all day long? Does that make a difference versus 260 in the day and another 100 at night?
So I was thinking, Paul, actually more about noise.
No, right.
And I wasn't thinking about the septic. I was just thinking about the annoyance factor for people who are, you know, in very close proximity to the theater. So,
Whole different issue, I agree.
right, I wasn't thinking about septic, but,
I'm trying to answer Rich's question or what I remember.
Yeah,
okay.
it's like I said, I remember the conversation, but I wasn't sure if I was remembering it correctly.
I thought the issue was, what are you gonna do if you've got 2 events going on at one time? You won't be able to handle capacity. Septic. As far as that relation.
Through the chair,
Yeah, Marty?
I got a whole different other question.
Okay,
If in the event of your parking overflow and this, that, and it's still not capacitable enough, and everybody wants to start parking along the side of the road, what implement plans do you have to take care of that? People sometimes park and then just get out and, I mean, just like the thing that happened last fall. I mean, are you going to call the sheriff for, because of illegal parking along the road? I mean, that's what I wanna,
I think we could post signs that say no parking, you will be towed, if that's the case, people try to break the rules and mark it and then capture it.
I mean, I'm not trying to be,
Yeah, if that's a condition, trying to be a good neighbor, then try to be. And it requires us to be pretty harsh about people doing things they're not supposed to be doing, then that's something we have to.
well, like I said, you don't have to post signs, because it's not gonna happen all the time. Just when you have an event or something another. Well, you know, I mean,
So when we think that we're going to be, we have to install removable signs.
you know, just a simple, silly other question. Because some of us are not as young as others along the way or anything else. But if you have, say your parking lot's full, but you have different ones coming in who might need the wheelchair or whatever else not. Do you have a spot so they can kind of offload and then go somewhere else? I mean, even if the parking lot's full, I mean,
Yeah, so if you look at the segment for indoor events, they would be able to pull into the gravel drive, offload, and then right in front of the venue. And then.
okay, I'm just I'm trying to think out loud along the way. I'm talking more for outdoor events.
Yeah, so the driveway. Yeah, so the driveway that's opposite the show.
I didn't see that one. Okay,
On the other side, the show up and the brush show. Or the security parking and kind of. That would be the drop on the driveway.
okay, thank you.
Any other comments by the board? Time to move on. Ladies and gentlemen, what's your pleasure?
Make a motion, we approve the conditional use application.
I'll second that.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the conditional use application. Any discussion?
Yeah,
Yeah,
if,
Marty,
if we're raising the number along the way, including with the septic system, does that constitute a whole new application? Or is it just trying to leave the same numbers, but saying multiple events during the day?
no, because the numbers are restricted to 358, is it?
Yeah.
358 per day.
Employees, but 350 plus the
Okay.
employees. Yep,
It's 350 attendees
correct,
in one day.
correct.
But I think we should also mention something about the fire code. So because the fire code only says so many.
Outdoor fire code doesn't exist,
No, I realize that.
but we already have the information on the indoor fire code.
Okay.
And that's the 160, I believe,
260.
260.
Yep.
Okay.
The stand-up's 285, yeah. 285 is the max. All this is and related.
At least if you have a multi-event inside in a range, you can at least shove everybody inside then.
I think, just one quick note, I think we'd be amenable, when we talk about outdoor programming, specifically the length, I think we'd all amenable to staying there together, but then it's not time. Because we're using outside, to avoid the issue.
Well,
Right, so if it's from early in the day to late at night, we can still, we'd be amenable to saying, well, no, that's not. Whatever the numbers were.
well, Susan asked about it, and I mentioned to her that I went to a Canned Heat concert in Easter of 1971. Canned Heat started playing at 3 in the afternoon, and they quit when the sun came up.
So as part of this submit, as part of it's two-pronged statement I'll make. One is that the motion and the second, I'm assuming, include the conditions of approval from the previous memo, which are also carried into the findings of fact.
Yeah.
And in the findings of fact, there is a statement that says the applicant adheres to all written materials submitted to the planning board as part of the approvals. They provided you in their original packet a statement that said that they would be shutting down their music at 9:30, as was discussed here. So that is covered.
We need to have one other condition of approval. It says the applicant will not use the outdoor stage until the proper permits have been issued by the code enforcement officer.
Correct.
I want the engineer's sign offs on the stage construction and on the whatever that little sound
That,
box is.
and that's what that statement is supposed to cover, because the permits can't be issued through the code enforcement officer unless we have a structural engineer stamp on
Right.
a plan.
I still want it in the approval.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's the one thing I wanted to do, but it's already.
Understood.
Okay?
So should we redo? I mean, I assumed that that was part
We have- We're still gonna have to have a vote on it because we just approved it, so we'll have to
So
go.
it doesn't,
We haven't voted yet.
it doesn't need to be, you don't need another motion and an approval, is that right? We can go with the one Paul and I
Yes,
just did. Okay. Good.
it'll be. No, I guess we will have to do that. To amend the findings of fact, we're gonna have to put that last one in here. Because we're gonna, yes, the stamped engineer. We're gonna have to have a vote on that.
All right, to the chair, I want to amend my standing motion here to add the fourth condition, which is that the engineered drawings be provided to the code enforcement officer as a condition of approval.
I will second that.
So, hold on.
Oh,
So that's already covered under the
Okay.
findings. I think what I'm hearing, though, is what the chair would like, and I was adding some wording, is that they be stamped by a structural engineer
That was the original condition that we had. So
Correct.
yes,
So that's the modification that's needed. We already state the applicant shall not use the outdoor stage until the proper permits have been issued by the code enforcement officer. But we're gonna modify that to say, proper permits, stamped by a structural engineer shall be submitted, to the code enforcement officer.
correct. Yeah, so that's what Paul's amended motion is.
Thank you for clarifying that for me.
And your second goes with it?
I am seconding.
Okay. Any discussion by the board about that? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That's 4 in favor, 1 opposed. Now we have to go back and vote on the entire motion. Because that was an amendment to the original motion. Oh, sure, you got to do it the right way.
Positive, the amendment.
Okay, any discussion on the motion as amended?
If you look at it on the front, it says the staging be determined can be held by a certified engineer stamp. It already states that right there.
Which one are you looking at, Marty?
Well, that's
just a note.
that's in the statement at the beginning of the findings of fact.
Oh, okay.
Having it as a condition of approval can't hurt at that point.
Can I ask before we vote for this again, because we just talked about it again, is there a way to put a condition of approval that the proposed, because number 8, proposed project will produce noise, odors, dust, debris, glare, obstruction, other nuances, is there a way, I know that you've done this, your sound survey, and I know that you've done, and we've talked about potentially ways to mitigate that. Is there a way we can have a regular check of that or some sort of things to make sure that we're following that? Or is that built into agreement of this and they are agreeing to it? In other words, is there a way that we can build in that will be maintained through, especially the outside concerts, let alone the movies? Is there a way to make a condition of that?
We can certainly craft a condition to that, except it's kind of already covered because they provided us in writing how they were going to do that. And that would be covered under the blanket statement that all written materials submitted to the board as part of
Okay.
the approvals.
That was my nugget thing about that, because when I asked the question,
Right.
when was this done? And you said different times, you said, where was it done? And was it during a concert? And I remember reading the initial sound, and I don't remember it being during the height of a concert in the evening. I remember it being different
Do it at
things.
the commission, they do it at, there's a group of concerts that they're tracking, and they do it. Sticks and the decibel meters out.
Mhm.
At sound check, they do a perimeter walk of the board level, this decibel meter.
Right,
And then, they do we look at it, we turn to the front of the house sound check to check its soundboard level, make sure it's matching the test to the soundboard. And then they make, adjustments at the soundboard level to make sure that they're staying within the required decibels during the concert.
during the concert.
Yeah.
Well, that was my question initially, and I don't remember if I got the answer.
I apologize.
That was my question. It's like during a concert, did someone go out and do an actual during the height of a concert?
They figure it and they have the sound.
Okay,
Yeah, and that's forward 2 and 3.
okay. Because that was my initial question, was like during an actual height of a concert, is someone going out to check the sound levels and the property and different parts of the property versus just the sound checks and so we were seeing that part of it. That was my question.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments by the board? Hearing none. Those in favor? All of it. So we have 4 in favor, 1 opposed. No, we still have 4 in favor, 1 opposed. Susan Roth seconded it.
And are you objecting?
Mhm.
Okay.
Who is the proposed?
Okay, we'll get all of this paperwork signed and get it back out to you.
Yes, you do that, and that. Findings and then they'll sign that.
Hopefully the snow will melt. Thank you all for your time.
All right, you guys have a good day. You might want to give that to me. We're going to change your name, Paul. We're going to start calling you John.
Yeah, really, yeah, because it was a mess.
Which is why I voted.
Well, we shall see. I think we're covered by, Blue Jays.
Okay, next item on the agenda. New application, Gary's Auto Salvage Conditional Use Permit Renewal for an existing auto salvage yard on a portion of a 16.5 acre site located at 258 River Road, tax map 40, lot 3 and 3A in the R4 district. Gary Welch is the owner applicant. There are a couple of waivers in this that we need to look at before we determine whether or not it is a complete application. They are requesting on the first page, page number 3 in our notes, a waiver of the topographic survey showing the existing and proposed site.
Can you guys take it out on the
Yeah,
other?
could you please take it outside? Thank you. We've had Gary in front of us numerous times, and we have all of this information in the file.
I think you and I did the sidewalk. It was almost 5 years ago.
3.
Was it 3?
Yeah, it would have been 3 years ago. And it was cold that day.
Very.
And then there is a evidence of of the applicant's right, title and interest. Again, that is in the file. An on-site soil investigation report by a licensed site evaluator. And there are letters of compliance from the fire chief and other information. Oh, no, that's stuff that was received. There's no other waivers. The only one that I can see would be the licensed site evaluator, because he'd do an on-site soil investigation. Most of from what we've seen in the past in the applications, these oils are removed inside a garage. They're not sitting out there leaking into the soil. So I will leave it up to you guys as to whether or not you think we should have a licensed site evaluation on this or not.
So part of that, if I may, Mr. Chairman, part of that under the checklist is usually the site evaluator is doing it for a septic system design. If you're seeking other information pertinent to oils or contaminants, antifreezes or anything like that being in the soils, that would certainly be a different issue, but you could certainly ask for that from them if you chose to.
Having been out to Gary's at least 3 times, unless he's just completely gone off the deep end on his business, all of this stuff is done inside a nice secure building and everything gets drained out.
I agree. I think he doesn't need another,
So what is your pleasure on the waivers that
Yes.
he has asked for?
waiver, yes.
Are you making a motion to accept all of the waivers?
Accept all waivers.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion is made by Marty Kane and seconded by Susan Roth to grant the waivers requested. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. The next item on the list is a site walk. Oh, no, I'm sorry. We have to determine the application complete first and then schedule the site walk.
Make the application complete.
I'll second that, Marty.
Motion by Marty Kane, seconded by Susan Roth to deem the application complete. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous. And now we can do a sidewalk. I have no idea. I can't,
So I believe so. I think it's the timber frame homes is on the 18th.
on the 18th, okay.
Yes.
We don't know what the weather's gonna be, bring for timber frames now and then. With timber frames, we don't know if it's gonna be plowed out or what. I mean, trouble is with Gary's down there, he has some areas that are majority walkable, but make sure you bring your boots.
You definitely want to wear boots. Because if
Huh?
warm boots, because if it's not, if it's not snowed under, it's gonna
It's
be
it's gonna
muddy.
be mud, it's mud now. I mean,
Okay, what time's the site walk on?
I believe you're correct.
Okay, what, do this one at 10?
Motion, we do the site walk on the 18th at 10 o'clock. Can you guys support that?
I'm good with that. No, we have, sidewalk is 9:30
Okay,
on technology, right? So we should be able to do it by 10:15.
Gary's is not gonna take you long.
Right, we're just coming from the first sidewalk to go to Gary.
So make it,
On River Road.
yeah, make it 10:30 just to play safe. Because we're either gonna have an extensive site walk at the buildings, or we're not gonna have one because we're not gonna be able to get in.
okay, so I'll make the motion, we do the site walk at 10:30 on the 18th.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion was made by Paul Green, seconded by Susan Roth to have a site walk on March 18th at 10:30. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. We'll look forward to seeing you on that date, and then we'll get you on the agenda for
Public hearing,
the first meeting in April.
weather permitting.
No, we get them on for the first.
No, I'm talking about the sidewalk, weather permitting.
March 18th, Marty, it's gonna be 85 degrees and beautiful.
If you say so.
We can only hope.
Some.
No, then it's more muddier.
Okay, and the next item on the agenda is the town planners report.
Yes, thank you,
Thanks,
Mr.
folks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Couple of things to mention to you tonight. First, don't leave without at least signing all this, but it looks like the Vinegar Hill plans will not be signed tonight since they're gonna refine them a little bit. Which is great. It's a reprieve from signatures. Also, I have in front of you, I think we've discussed it before, but it's the amendments to the, what we currently call accessory apartments, which under the new state law, it is considered accessory dwelling units. I've made some very, very minor changes to that. And I have had several discussions, not because of this, but with the town's attorney, with Leah Ration on the whole housing law. This is good to go. So if you'd like to set a date for the public hearing at the next, I believe it's the next meeting, and we'll have enough time to be able to get that advertised. It's not as though we're sending out a butters notices on this, since it's the townwide zoning ordinance amendment. We'd like to be able to get that scheduled. To just get that part of the ordinance changed. I don't believe there's any other amendments that you're gonna need because of the way the state law is structured. Number two, I am going to mention, because we don't do it every day, there is an applicant, or actually a group of applicants, led by one person, who is going to seek a zoning map amendment along Route 1, moving a part of the property from, and not the frontage, and we can get into that when the petition comes forward, but it's being submitted to the clerk. And you folks need to set a date for a public hearing on that. There's not a completeness requirement like a development project. But there is a map amendment being proposed to take some property from DB1 to DB2. Yes.
I'm just baffled as to why.
That can certainly be discussed once the application's in
Right.
front
No,
of you.
no,
but-
no, I understand. It'll be interesting to find, what I would really be interested in finding out from the applicants is why they didn't come and ask us.
Well, because we're following the letter of the law with the way the zoning map amendment issue is set up. And it needs to go to the town clerk first.
Oh,
And
okay.
then she, for whatever reason, it goes to her first, and then she sends it to us immediately. And you'll hold a public hearing on that and send a recommendation to the select board, who will then make a recommendation for town meeting.
Okay, but they have gone through and collected signatures on a petition, correct?
No, they do
Oh,
not need to
okay.
do that.
Okay.
Yep, yep.
Because the last time we did a change like this, Tad was the town planner. And they came and we worked with them and they worked with us, and we then crafted up the whole ordinance to get it changed at town meeting.
I'm just
Hey, no,
following
hey,
what it says.
I don't care which way we do it. I thought that was the way it was supposed to be done.
Yeah, no, I've had several meetings with the prime applicant, walked him through this process. So yes,
Okay,
yep. So,
I will have to be recused myself because I'm one of the property owners.
okay.
wasn't gonna say that tonight, but that's fine. Thank you, Marty. No, absolutely. We need to sign the plan, the NODs. And that is about it for me for tonight.
Okay, we're going to have an issue here on the accessory dwelling units,
Okay,
on the back page for structures, for structure. Anything constructed or erected, yada, 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 or on or in the ground, including tiny homes. We
yes,
do not have a definition for tiny homes.
good point. We don't have to include that in this process then if you don't want to. There is a statewide definition, but short of putting it in our ordinance, I would agree. I think that's,
I would take tiny homes out, and at some point in the future, we can always craft it
Yeah.
up to what it means.
no, I'm good with that. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, Paul.
I do have a question, this is just coming from my own education.
Yes,
We say in here that the owners of the principal structure must reside in the principal structure.
that is currently in the ordinance. The only thing that's being proposed for changes is whatever is underlined or struck and through.
I understand.
Yeah.
I'm just, the question itself though, because for example, wife and I are retired now, we're downsizing, we go for an 800 square foot addition to the house that we live in, our kids take over our house. Why would that be?
Would they be the owners of the,
No, I still own one, they'll get it when I die.
technically based,
Now it's only else.
technically the way this is written, that could not occur.
Yeah, that's just the way this got written years ago.
Is that to prevent us from having like absentee landlords? Is that what
Yes.
it's designed for? So.
And especially today, short-term rental issues
Yeah.
and that sort of thing.
So couldn't we word this so they had to live in one of the two structures?
That's up to you folks.
Just a thought.
It's an interesting discussion. You're right. It was originally put in so that we did not have absentee landlords.
But if I could see that situation happening as,
I could see where we say that the property owner must live in one of the residences.
Yep. The owners of the property must reside
On the property.
in one of these structures.
Right.
Can't you just say on the property?
No,
Why?
it has to be in one of the dwellings.
Most people wouldn't be living in a tent. I'm saying, couldn't you just say the property owner needs to be living on?
I mean, a motorhome.
And that's true because motorhomes, you're not allowed to live in a motorhome year round in the town of Arundel. So, yeah, I would say that the owners of the property must live in one of the dwelling units.
And dwelling presumes, Lee J, that it's a structure, correct?
Correct.
Well, why do you have to say one of the dwellings? Because it's still under all one ownership.
Because he can't live in two.
No, but I'm saying if the owner is living in one, say like Paul is moving out of the big house into the little house.
Because the ordinance right now says he has to live in the big house.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I'd stay in the 4,000 square foot.
They're all gonna move in with you, Paul.
They already have.
There's more coming.
It's time to start putting up 4 units, Paul.
So
No,
with that change, I'm assuming we can move it to public hearing.
Yes, so let's take a vote on it. All those in favor of moving this to a public hearing
with the change.
with the changes.
Aye.
Aye.
It is unanimous. All those in favor of going home, say adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Yes,
Oh, yes, but we can adjourn the meeting.